Chapter 1. Leo Carter spat the foam into the sink, the sharp, minty toothpaste hitting the back of his nose and making his eyes water. He stared at his reflection in the bathroom mirror, looking at himself like a boxer on the ropes. He decided then and there. This afternoon, he was going to divorce Jessica. No man, no normal man, could put up with his wife staying out all night, night after night. "We need to get a divorce," Leo said, finally shaking awake the woman who had stumbled in after midnight and slept until noon. A flicker of disbelief crossed Jessica's eyes, but her expression remained placid. That was her nature, calm, rational, with a face that seemed permanently set to an unreadable, stoic beauty. She glanced at her phone, then got out of bed to get ready, not even bothering to engage. She thought he was losing his mind. What right did he have to divorce her? On his art teacher's salary? That pathetic $3,500 a month. It barely covered his third of the mortgage. The front door slammed shut behind her. Leo sank deep into the sofa, the veins on the back of his hands standing out like angry blue wires. A divorce. What right did he have, really? He'd once been the golden boy of the art school, and Jessica Miller had been the queen of the business department. He had the talent, she had the beauty, and when that beauty had confessed her feelings for his talent, he'd fallen hard. Blinded by love, Leo had given up a full-ride scholarship to a prestigious MFA program in New York to move back to her hometown of Savannah. She was an only child, she'd said. Leaving her parents was out of the question. The honeymoon phase was short, but the reality was long. The city's crushing housing market and stagnant wages wore Leo down, body and soul. 5 years of teaching high school art felt like a dead end, a monotonous grind that offered no future. They didn't even dare talk about having kids. Jessica was a sales director. Beautiful and a chameleon, she was brilliant at her job, navigating the murky waters of corporate schmoozing, charming circles of leering, middle-aged clients. She could play the game, work a room, do whatever it took. Leo had a thing about authenticity. He couldn't stand that side of her. But every time he brought it up, she shut him down with the same cold logic. "You want me to quit? Fine. You pay the mortgage. I guess we could always live on the street." The weight of it all was suffocating. After every fight, he'd retreat to his small studio, the one place he could try to stoke the tiny flame of inspiration he had left. But today, he didn't go to the studio. He sat on the sofa for a long time, then pulled out his phone. He opened a message thread on WhatsApp he hadn't touched in years. Just this morning, a new message had popped up from that very contact. "Leo, hope you're doing okay. There's a major gallery exhibition coming up here in New York. I have a spot I can recommend someone for. Come find me. I'll give the spot to you, and we can forget about what happened back then." "What's the catch?" Leo had typed back. "Divorce her, and come to me." His phone buzzed, jolting him back to the present. "Mom," Leo said, his voice cautious. "Leo, what is wrong with you?" A sharp, grating voice shot through the phone. "Jess is busy. I asked you to pick up my prescription hours ago. You can't even handle one simple thing. What are you good for? I can't imagine what kind of family raised such a useless man." Leo's face was a stony mask. "I'll bring the medicine over in a little while, Brenda." He hung up, his eyes hardening with a fresh wave of resolve. To his surprise, Jessica came home early. Leo stood at the bedroom door, holding the divorce papers he'd printed out. He saw her sitting at her desk, her back to him. Her slender silhouette suddenly made his chest ache. He shook his head, telling himself not to go soft. He was about to speak when he heard her voice, quiet and tired. "Leo," she said, "let's have a baby." The courage to show her the papers vanished. He felt like a deflated balloon, but a tiny spark of light flickered back to life in his eyes. Chapter 2. "Oh, really? That's hilarious." Jessica leaned against her cubicle wall, a coffee mug in one hand, the other resting casually on a male colleague's shoulder. She laughed, a bright, tinkling sound that made her tailored blouse stretch taut across her chest. Anyone who didn't know her well would never believe that Jessica at the office was the same person she was at home. At home, she was reserved, almost cold. In 5 years, they'd been intimate less than a dozen times. At the office, she was a vibrant, captivating flirt. Her female colleagues sometimes used the word shameless behind her back, but the men loved it. "Jess, I'm telling you, we're going to land this project because of you," her colleague, Mark Thompson, said excitedly, his eyes darting to her chest every few seconds. Jessica leaned in, her voice a low murmur in his ear. I already cleared it with the boss. If we close this deal, our commission gets a 20% bonus. You might finally have that down payment. Mark was dizzy with excitement. He couldn't believe his luck, getting partnered with Jessica. She was the top salesperson in the company. He had no idea why she'd taken a rookie like him under her wing. Could it be that she was into him? No, his wife was due in 2 months. He couldn't afford to screw up. Jessica sauntered back to her desk, a frown suddenly creasing her brow. She remembered something and immediately dialed Leo's number. The toilet at my mom's is clogged. Go fix it. And on your way, stop by that specialty grocery store, the one she likes, and pick up a container of that imported olive oil. I don't know how to fix a toilet. And can't you buy olive oil anywhere? Leo replied from the other end, setting down his paintbrush and trying to keep his voice steady. The thought of his hands meant for painting, gripping a plunger was a special kind of hell. She doesn't like the oil from other stores. And if you don't know how to fix a toilet, you can learn. Leo, don't disappoint me again. Or I might have to reconsider my decision from yesterday. Her voice was ice. She hung up before he could answer. The dial tone buzzed in his ear. Leo felt a vain throb in his forehead. She hadn't changed at all, but she had promised him a child. Just one last time, he told himself. This will be the last time. Brenda stood in the bathroom doorway, pinching her nose with one pudgy hand, her face a mask of disgust. Leo, are you trying to break my toilet? Don't use so much force. I gave you the plastic bag, didn't I? Your fingers are long enough. Just reach in there and pull it out. A wave of nausea hit Leo. He leaned over the toilet bowl and dry heaved. Leo, for God's sake. Brenda shrieked. Are you trying to make me sick? Fine, you take your sweet time with it. I have to take your father for his checkup. I want it fixed before we get back. If I see that mess again, I'll faint. Her husband, Robert, who was stooped over tying his shoes, frowned. Brenda, that's enough. Leo, don't mind her. My back's been killing me, and she's been waiting on me for 2 days. She's just blowing off steam. That only made Brenda angrier. She grabbed Robert by the ear and dragged him out the door, yelling the whole way. The door slammed. Leo slumped to the floor. He took out his phone and opened the message thread again. After his reply yesterday, the other person hadn't written back. He had written, probably not. I'm about to have a child of my own. I don't want to cause any more trouble. Ping. The chat window lit up. Leo tapped it open. It was a new message. It was a picture of a train ticket. An Acela ticket for a train arriving in Savannah that afternoon. Chapter 3. Evan, I'm sorry, Leo said, looking apologetically across the cafe table. I didn't mean for you to come all this way for nothing. The exhibition is an incredible opportunity, and I'd be lucky to be in it, but I can't agree to your terms. Evan Chun was strikingly handsome, his features made even more refined by a subtle application of makeup. Hearing Leo's words, he simply took a sip of his coffee and smiled. Leo, it's a package deal. Don't be so quick to say no. You know what I want, and I know your situation. The exhibition is still a few months away. You have time to think. Leo was about to say there was nothing to think about, but for some reason, the words caught in his throat. Evan stood to leave, his voice soft. I'll be staying in town for a while. I won't rush you. I'll just be waiting. And Leo, you look much more worn out than you did a few years ago. Leo's eyes welled up. He fought to keep the tears from falling, trying to hold on to his last shred of dignity. But when he got home and stood at his front door, he felt that last shred dissolve. Taped to the door was a final notice from the water company. Today was the deadline. If he didn't pay, they were shutting it off. He'd spent the last of the money in his checking account on that damn bottle of olive oil. He and Jessica had an agreement. He paid the utilities, his third of the mortgage, and bought the groceries. His salary might have been just enough to cover it, if not for one other critical expense, his art supplies. Even now, he couldn't extinguish that dream. He kept painting, his small studio serving as both his sanctuary and his escape. Jessica never understood. Maybe, in the beginning, she had admired his talent. But years in the corporate world had taught her to measure everything in dollars and cents. Painting was nice, but could you sell it? If not, it was just trash. Worthless paper. Defeated, he went into his studio. He was about to pick up a brush when his phone rang again. It was his mother. The weather was getting colder, she said, reminding him to wear a coat. He'd always been frail. He needed to eat well, not worry about the money. His father murmured in agreement in the background. The tears he'd held back all day finally broke free. Leo bit his lip, mumbling okay into the phone. Leo was also an only child. His parents, both working class, had adored him. They'd scrimped and saved to pay for his expensive art classes, supporting him all the way through art school, even knowing the job prospects were bleak. They were retired now, living on modest pensions. "Honey, I just Venmo'd you $2,000, his mom said. "Don't you dare send it back. We're fine, and we're saving up for our grandkid. You're all alone out there, and we can't take care of you. You have to take care of yourself, okay?" After he hung up, Leo stared at the notification, his eyes red. He hesitated for a long time before finally accepting the money. An unbearable wave of guilt washed over him, so thick he could barely breathe. He hadn't even eaten since noon. He lay on the bed, the lights on, staring blankly at the ceiling. He stayed like that until 2 in the morning, when Jessica finally came home, reeking of alcohol. Leo watched her with a blank expression. She just stared back at him. "Jessica, Leo started, but stopped when she suddenly threw her arms around him, holding him tight. "Leo," she whispered, her voice thick with emotion. "We're going to pay off the mortgage. It's almost done." Leo froze. He felt a sudden warmth on his neck. It was her tears. Chapter 4. "I'm on my knees, Leo. I'm begging you." Brenda was kneeling on the floor, clutching his legs and sobbing. Behind her, Robert's face was ashen. Terminal cancer. The total cost of treatment would be around $250,000. The bonus Jessica was getting for closing her deal, after paying off the last of the mortgage, was exactly $250,000. The day after Jessica had told her parents they were finally debt-free, Robert had gotten the diagnosis. The results were confirmed by her cousin, a doctor at the hospital. Leo felt a chill run through him. He looked at Jessica. "It's terminal? What are we going to do?" Jessica said nothing, her face unreadable. She walked over, pulled a debit card from her purse, and handed it to Brenda. Then she turned and walked out. The money from her bonus had been deposited that morning. "Jessica," Leo roared, jumping to his feet, his voice filled with a bottomless pit of despair and fury. She didn't turn back. She just kept walking. Tears streamed down Robert's weathered face. A look of guilt and self-loathing etched into his features. Chapter 5. Ignoring the stunned looks from everyone in the office, Mark Thompson slammed a stack of spreadsheets on Jessica's desk. "Wow, Jessica, you're really something else," he hissed. "A 60-40 split becomes 90-10. You played me for a complete idiot. Unbelievable." Jessica looked at him with a smirk. "Mark, be honest with yourself. How much work did you actually do? You keep barking like a stray dog, and you won't even get that 10%. Mark pointed a trembling finger at her. "You just wait. I know exactly how you landed that project. You want me to tell everyone about your dirty little secrets? That I slept with a client?" She shot back, her voice dripping with contempt. "You'd better have proof. You can think whatever you want, but if you say it out loud, I'll sue you for slander." Mark was speechless. He knew she was ruthless, but he never imagined she could be so shameless. Just then, her phone rang. Seeing the caller ID, her face instantly broke into a dazzling smile. "Mr. Croft, so good to hear from you. Don't you worry. I'll see this project through to the very end. Not a single loose end. And about that other thing we discussed. Yes, my answer is yes. I'll do it." Chapter 6. Jessica's personality did a complete 180. The cool, distant woman was gone, replaced by someone who was relentlessly passionate, wanting to be with him every night. But Leo wasn't interested. He was completely disillusioned with her. He was just waiting for the right moment to bring up the divorce again. Finally, after one of her advances, he pushed her away. "Stop it, Jessica," he yelled. "Just stop. I know you're faking this. You feel guilty, and you think this is how you can make it up to me, but I don't need this kind of compensation. You and your family. It's a cage, and I'm trapped inside." Jessica's eyes went cold in an instant. She met his gaze. "A divorce? Fine, but you wait 2 months. Wait until my project is completely wrapped up." Leo felt a wave of relief wash over him, but it was mixed with a strange sense of loss. He buried his face in his hands and started to sob. A month passed. Leo moved into his studio, and they stopped speaking entirely. To Jessica, it was as if he were thin air. But over the past few days, Leo noticed a change in her. She was anxious, a palpable, nervous energy radiating from her. She checked her phone constantly, as if waiting for a critical message. Then, one day, the anxiety was gone, replaced by a hollow, ashen look on her face. That evening, she knocked on the door of his studio. "Is it time?" Leo asked, his voice flat. He looked gaunt. It wasn't 2 months yet, but what did a few weeks matter? "I'm pregnant," Jessica said, her voice devoid of any emotion. Chapter 7. Evan sipped his coffee, a hint of eyeshadow, giving his eyes a perpetually amused look. "Your wife is pregnant? Well, that's a reason that's pretty hard to argue with." Leo leaned back in the chair, a strange mix of exhaustion and joy on his face. "I'm sorry, Evan, to make you wait here for so long." Evan smiled. "Don't be. I wanted to wait. I guess it just wasn't meant to be." "But Leo." Leo looked up, waiting. "She's pregnant," Evan said, a playful glint in his eye. "But are you sure the baby is yours?" Leo's face flushed a deep red. He shot to his feet. "What the hell is that supposed to mean?" Evan calmly reached into his jacket, pulled out a manila envelope, and slid it across the table. "You know, I've been getting into photography. It's been pretty boring here, so I've just been shooting whatever I see. I might have caught something you'll find useful. I'll head out now. Think it over. It probably won't take you long. Maybe just until this afternoon." Leo tore open the envelope. As he looked at the pictures inside, the last remaining light in his eyes flickered and died. Chapter 8. The divorce was quick and painless. Walking out of the courthouse, Leo said tiredly, "I hope you and your child will be happy." Jessica just let out a cold, bitter laugh. "You think this is funny?" The humiliation was a physical blow. "Isn't it?" she retorted. "Leo, have you forgotten the promises you made to me when we first got together?" He finally broke. "Are you trying to destroy me, Jessica? Is that it? I could put up with anything, give up anything, but what do you do to me? What do you do? And now you expect me to raise your bastard child? Do I deserve to die?" Without another word, Jessica turned and walked away. In the company parking garage, she didn't get out of her car right away. She leaned back in the driver's seat, taking deep breaths, trying to calm the storm raging inside her. When she finally felt a little steadier, she got out. Suddenly, a large hand clamped down on her arm. "Julian Croft?" Jessica shook his hand off, a wave of disgust washing over her. Julian was a man in his 40s with the soft, pampered face of someone who'd never worked a hard day in his life. Right now, he looked miserable. "Jessica, please," he pleaded. "Please have the baby. It's a life, a precious little life." "Have the baby," she scoffed. "Fine, you deliver on your promise." Julian was speechless, standing there wringing his hands. $250,000. Not a penny less. He dropped to his knees, grabbing her leg. "Jessica, give me some time," he wailed. "That witch found out about us and froze all my accounts. I don't even have money for food. Please, just wait a little longer. I'll figure something out. Have mercy, please. Let me keep my child." Jessica kicked out, sending him sprawling face first onto the pavement. She walked away without a backward glance, leaving him sobbing on the ground. Before she reached the exit of the garage, she heard a slow, deliberate clap behind her. She turned to see Mark Thompson, a smug grin on his face. He held up his phone. "Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant," he said. "Now I see why you wanted a 90-10 split. I should have gotten less. You really sacrificed a lot for this project, didn't you?" A slow smile spread across Jessica's lips. She walked toward him. "All right, Mark. What do you want?" His eyes raked over her chest, which seemed fuller since the pregnancy. "Well," he said with a greasy smile, "since you've already slept with half the city, what's one more? The terms are simple. One night with me, and you give me the other 90% of the commission. Then I forget I ever saw anything." Jessica burst out laughing. She curled her index finger, beckoning him closer with a sultry look. Mark's head was swimming. He stumbled forward, mesmerized. Suddenly, she held up a hand, motioning for him to stop. He looked down in confusion, just as he felt a blinding pain. The pointed toe of her high-heeled shoe had connected squarely with his groin. He collapsed to the ground, howling like a stuck pig. Chapter 9. Jessica had snatched Mark's phone. With video proof that he had been blackmailing her, the police let her go after she gave a statement. However, for having an improper relationship with a client, she was promptly fired. She came home to the familiar smells of her apartment, but it was empty, cold, quiet, and utterly alone. Jessica curled up on the sofa, pulling a blanket around herself and gently stroking her belly. She suddenly remembered she'd just had security cameras installed for her parents. They were at a doctor's appointment, and she hadn't had a chance to tell them yet. She opened the app, planning to use the two-way talk feature to show them how it worked. She was surprised to see her cousin, Kyle, was there with them. The three of them were on the sofa. Her mom was peeling an apple for Kyle, and her dad was smiling, watching as Kyle showed him something on his phone. The scene was so bizarrely domestic, it almost looked happy. "Kyle, when are you going to bring your girlfriend over so we can meet her?" Brenda said cheerfully. "You're about to get married, and we've never even seen her." "Yeah, you should," Robert added. "And once you're married, you need to have kids right away. I have to be the one to name the baby. Look what a great name I gave you. Kyle. It's a great name." "Oh," Jessica thought. "So my dad named my cousin." Kyle looked a little awkward. "I'll have to see what my parents think." Brenda and Robert's expressions immediately soured. "Kyle," Brenda said, clearing her throat, "your Aunt Sarah may be your mother, but aren't we your parents, too?" Jessica felt like she'd been plunged into ice water. Brenda started to tear up. The rules were so strict back then. We already had Jessica. If we'd had you, your father and I would have both lost our jobs. That's why we had to give you to my sister to raise. And now look at you all grown up. Kyle took Brenda's hand. "Mom, you don't have to say any more. I know what you and Dad sacrificed. I'll repay you for it one day." Brenda nodded tearfully and turned to Robert. "See, Robert, what I tell you? In the end, we have to rely on our son. Jessica is a good girl, but she's still a daughter. And she acts like she can't stand Leo, but deep down, she loves him. If I hadn't threatened to kill myself, she never would have come back home." Robert sighed. "Why are you bringing that up? We've already done Jessica wrong enough." Brenda scoffed. "What's right or wrong about it? Don't you feel guilty, Robert? If Kyle hadn't helped you fake those medical reports, we never would have gotten that $250,000 from Jessica. Kyle could work for 10 years and still not afford a down payment. In the end, it would have just gone to that bastard Leo. We have to keep it in the family, especially since Kyle is our son. Just think of it as Jessica's way of compensating him for us." Kyle gave a weak smile. He was a resident physician. Forging those documents had been tricky, but for $250,000, it was worth the risk. He knew Jessica wasn't short on cash, so he didn't feel much guilt. He just told himself it was, as his birth mother said, compensation. As for taking care of them in their old age, that was just talk. Who knew what the future held? But then he remembered what Jessica had asked him to do earlier, and a chill went down his spine. His sister was not someone to be crossed. If she ever found out. On the other end of the camera feed, Jessica felt the room spin. Her chest was so tight it felt like it was wrapped in steel bands. She fumbled with the top buttons of her shirt, gasping for air. Her own parents, her own brother, conspiring to scam her. Unbelievable. Absolutely unbelievable. But every price has its tag. You took the $250,000. But can you handle the consequences? On the Acela first-class car, Leo sat across from Evan. Leo had his eyes closed. Evan watched him with an intrigued expression. The biggest obstacle was gone. Evan felt a profound sense of relief. This time, there was no reason for Leo to leave him. "All these years, and you're still single?" Leo asked. "Not anymore," Evan said with a soft smile. A rare smile touched Leo's lips. "When I was tutoring you back in school, I never would have guessed you were into guys. It's not too late to know now." Evan's voice was gentle. Leo nodded. "You need to hold on to that freedom. Freedom is the most precious thing there is." Evan turned to look out the window. "I've always remembered that, Leo. Or should I say, Dad?" Leo's smile vanished. "Your mother," he said, his voice strained. Is she doing okay?" In a corner of a quiet cafe, Jessica wore a pair of oversized black sunglasses, her face an icy mask now that she no longer had to pretend. Across from her, Julian Croft fidgeted nervously. He consulted his tarot cards before coming. The reading was dangerous, but with a chance of reward. A glimmer of hope for his child. "Jessica, we can't let this get out," he pleaded. "You're broke," she said coldly. "What have you got to lose?" He shook his head frantically. No, it's not about me. I told you before, the price was $250,000 for you to keep your child," Jessica stated, her face like stone. but I understand your situation has changed. So I've decided to give you a discount. 100,000, and the child is yours. Julian's eyes lit up. Are you serious? Jessica's expression didn't change. He pulled out his phone. Jessica, give me 10 minutes. Just 10 minutes. He scrambled outside and dialed a number. Is this a good time? No. Julian, how many times do I have to tell you? Text me first. Lena, I can't wait. 100,000. Can you get 100,000? She lowered the price. We can keep the baby. Julian, he's watching my every move. I can't get that kind of money. Can't you talk to her? Get her to go lower? If it's lower, I might be able to figure something out. Lena, it's our child. I know you're not the one carrying him, but he'll have our blood. How can you be so heartless? Julian, maybe we should just let it go. I can't get attached to a child that isn't mine. Just like I've never been able to get attached to his children from his first marriage. God damn it, Lena. You lied to me. Did you forget what we promised each other? You find a rich guy. I find a rich woman. We save up enough money and get back together. But these rich bastards are so cheap. They treat us like toys. You can't get a dime out of them. So we decided to find a surrogate. The psychic said Jessica was the perfect vessel, that everything would work out if she carried our child. And now my cover is blown. I'm broke overnight, and you're all I have left. She's already pregnant. Lena, it's just a few more months. Please just find a way. If you ever loved me, please find a way. Julian, you're insane. I am sorry. I can't go back to that life. Even if it means wearing a mask for the rest of my life, I will never be poor again. Goodbye, Julian. Don't call me again. Beep, beep, beep. Julian shuffled back into the cafe, looking utterly defeated. Jessica wasn't surprised. Her expression remained unchanged. It didn't work? She asked. He nodded. Do you have any other options? He shook his head. I have an idea, she said. I can't do it myself. But you can. I don't know if you have the guts. And I should warn you, the consequences could be severe. Julian's head snapped up, his eyes filled with a desperate resolve. Tell me. Chapter 12. Mandy Evans felt like a chicken that had wandered into a flock of peacocks. It was her first time at such a high-end art gallery opening. She saw faces she recognized from magazines and art history textbooks. Her heart pounded, but when they drifted toward her painting, wine glasses in hand, she was utterly tongue-tied, unable to explain her own work. She was crushed. Her fiancé had pulled so many strings to get her piece included. It was all for nothing. Just then, a handsome, well-dressed man stopped in front of her painting and studied it intently. Mandy didn't know him, but from his tailored suit and expensive watch, she could tell he was important. She summoned her courage and walked over. But before she could speak, he held up a finger. Quiet. She clamped her mouth shut, her heart hammering against her ribs. Could this be her big break? I see a collision of deconstructionism and postmodernism, the man mused, his eyes narrowed. An emotion like wildfire, melting the ice of sensory perception. I feel it, young lady. The passion, the rawness, the flame. It's magnificent. This piece deserves to be seen. It shouldn't be gathering dust here. It should be at auction. Mandy could barely contain her excitement. I painted it, she stammered. Of course, the man said, extending a hand and giving hers a gentle shake. A work with such vitality could only come from a young woman like yourself. Have you ever considered sending your work to auction? Mandy took the business card he offered. The name on it read, Julian Croft. He held up a hand to stop her from speaking. You don't have to agree right away. Please think about it. He then showed her photos on his phone of himself with several famous artists. Mandy's heart felt like it was going to beat out her chest. They exchanged numbers, and he departed. When she got home, she didn't even put her bag down before throwing her arms around her fiancé, Kyle. Honey, I'm going to be famous, she shrieked. Kyle looked bewildered. He gently pushed her away and pulled a folder full of real estate listings from his briefcase. Mandy, you need to get your priorities straight. We're getting married next year, and we still don't have a house. I asked you to go look at condos, and you insisted on going to that art show. I shouldn't have asked Jess to pull strings for you. Mandy snatched the folder and tossed it aside. Who needs to look at condos? Once I'm famous, one painting will be worth a whole house. She then launched into a breathless story about the art world VIP she'd met. Kyle was skeptical. I don't know, it sounds shady. Are you sure you're not being scammed? Scammed? How? Mandy said impatiently. He showed me pictures with all those famous artists, and I asked my professor about him. He's a huge deal in the industry. He discovers unknown geniuses like me. He's launched the careers of dozens of young artists. Kyle still felt uneasy, but Mandy was so excited he didn't want to burst her bubble. Just be careful with that money, he warned. That's our down payment. We can't afford to lose it. Mandy's eyes flashed. What's that supposed to mean, Kyle? We agreed the house would be in my name. Are you backing out now? You were the one in a rush to get married, not me. It's not too late to call it off. You want the money back? Fine, I'll transfer it to you right now. Kyle panicked. He threw his arms around her and soothed her with sweet nothings until she finally calmed down. He made a mental note not to mention the money again. Chapter 13, You haven't changed a bit. But I've gotten old, Catherine Pierce said, smiling at Leo. The words felt like a jab. The opposite was true. Catherine had a fortune to spend on skincare and cosmetic procedures. She looked almost the same as she had 10 years ago. Leo, on the other hand, had been worn down by life, aging him far more than a decade. Catherine was a woman of immense poise and beauty. At 50, time had barely touched her. She glided over, took Leo's hand, and smiled. You're finally back. It's hard out there. Why did you have to put yourself through that? Leo subtly pulled his hand away. You make mistakes when you're young. Love can make you lose your head. She ignored his coolness and took his hand again, leading him toward an old man with a deeply wrinkled face and suspiciously jet-black hair, dressed in a Taoist robe. Blessings upon you, the old man said with a bow. Ms. Pierce, the one you have waited for has finally arrived. A man of great talent. I can see from your aura, young friend, that you are a dragon leaving the shallows, a tiger returning to the mountain. A great future awaits. Your destiny is perfectly aligned with Ms. Pierce's. This reunion is truly wondrous. Leo frowned. Catherine covered her mouth and chuckled. Master you. Spare me the theatrics. I don't believe a word of it. Go get your hair re-dyed this afternoon. I can see the gray roots. Better yet, get plugs. I'm introducing you to some of my friends later. If you can't win them over, I'm cutting your annual donation in half. Master you scurried behind her and began massaging her shoulders. Don't you worry, Miss Pierce. It's in the bag. I'll get the hair done this afternoon. My blood pressure is too high for plugs, though. And please, don't cut the donation. My grandson starts college next year. I need to save up for his tuition and his wedding. Catherine turned to Leo with a knowing smile. See? Bills, tuition, groceries. Even mystics have to bow to reality. Leo just nodded. This was why he had left her all those years ago. She saw through everyone, played with people for sport, and had a moral compass that pointed wherever was most convenient. She was the polar opposite of Jessica. Catherine was warm on the outside and ice-cold on the inside. Jessica was the reverse. Evan said my paintings could get into the exhibition. Is that true? Leo asked. I know my own skill level. I'm not sure I'm good enough. Whether you're good enough is for me to decide, Catherine said with a laugh. If 100 people on the street say a painting is good, it doesn't add a dime to its value. But if I get a handful of critics to say it's good, then I can write any number I want on the price tag. In that case, Leo said, I want to sell one for $250,000. Catherine looked him up and down, then smiled. Done. Chapter 14, Jess, why is this condo so cheap? Kyle asked, looking at the pictures his sister had sent him. Only $250,000 for the whole thing? In this neighborhood, with these renovations, it should be at least $400,000. Jessica's voice was warm over the phone. It belongs to my old colleague, Mark Thompson. He had an accident a while back, and when his wife heard the news, the shock sent her into early labor. The baby's still in the NICU, and they're desperate for cash. He just bought the place less than a month ago, and he had to borrow from everyone for the down payment. I just feel bad for him, so I wanted to help out. When you talk to him, don't mention my name. You know how men are with their pride. Right, I get it, Kyle said quickly. He felt a pang of guilt, remembering the things he'd done for her that were a far cry from good-hearted. This was the deal of a lifetime. He didn't want to waste time calling Mandy. She'd been acting strange lately, almost manic. He needed to talk to her in person to seal the deal. At that moment, Mandy was in her studio apartment, pacing back and forth, her face a mask of indecision. Mandy, you are a rare talent. Julian Croft's smooth, magnetic voice purred. But you know, art isn't like gold. Gold is gold anywhere you go. Art needs to be marketed. Building a reputation costs money. I. Mandy trailed off. Julian took her small, delicate hand. She flinched, but didn't pull away. Seeing his chance, he pressed on, his voice full of emotion. Mandy, do you know why I chose your work for the auction? She looked down at her feet. You said it was full of life? That's only part of it. He gently pulled her into his arms, whispering in her ear. The other reason is, you look just like my first love. Not just your face, but your spirit. Oh, where's she now? Mandy asked timidly. She's dead, Julian said, his voice turning cold, then immediately softening again. Mandy, I believe in you. I want to help you. Opportunities like this don't come along every day. Seize it and you'll soar. Miss it, and you'll be nobody forever. Do you understand? Mandy nodded sadly. Understand, but I don't have that kind of money to grease the wheels. Silly girl, Julian said, stroking her hair. I have the connections. The operating fund is $250,000. I can lend you half. You can pay me back after the auction, but you have to come up with the other half. It's not that I won't help, but I need to see that you're committed. The money doesn't just disappear. It's an investment. I wouldn't risk my reputation. You're a smart girl. I trust you know what to do. Mandy nodded. She pulled a crumpled debit card from her pocket. Julian didn't even glance at it, just placed it on the table. He looked directly into her eyes. That's my good girl. But I want to explore the source of your art more directly. Are you willing to dedicate yourself to art? Mandy blushed and said nothing, just gave a barely audible hum. Julian raised an eyebrow. He didn't understand why this part was necessary, but Jessica had said it was part of the plan. Fine. It was no skin off his back. Chapter 15. This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. What are you hesitating for? Kyle yelled, his face contorted with anger. Mandy's voice was shrill, masking her guilt. I know that. I invested the money in some tech stocks. How was I supposed to know we could get a place like this for so cheap? I was just trying to make a little extra, and then the market crashed. I can't sell until it recovers. And were you just yelling at me? Kyle's fists clenched and unclenched at his sides. He let out a long sigh. He was about to call Jessica when his phone pinged with a new message from her. Kyle, have you decided yet? I heard from a colleague that there are already several other buyers looking at it. You need to move fast. A wave of panic washed over Kyle. He felt like a steak was about to be snatched right out of his mouth. Figure something out, he said through gritted teeth. Mandy exploded. I should figure something out? Since when is buying a house my job? Even if my parents had money, it's for my brother. You know where that $100,000 came from, Kyle. You have two sets of parents. Your birth parents coughed up blood for you, so are your adoptive parents just going to sit back and watch? A vein throbbed in Kyle's temple. He suddenly thought that marrying Mandy might be a terrible mistake. But the money was in her account, so he had no leverage. After a long, agonizing moment, he picked up the phone. Mom, he said, his voice hesitant. Can Dad and I borrow the money you have saved up? There's this perfect condo, and I want to buy it for our marital home. On the other end, his adoptive mother, Sarah, was silent for a moment. Kyle, she finally said, her voice flat. Your father and I aren't idiots. Don't think you can hide what you've been doing from us. I have POs. I could never get pregnant. After your birth mother gave you to us, we treated you like our own son. We gave you everything. We never even tried to see other doctors. She promised she would never tell you the truth. But now, honestly, Kyle, your father and I worked our whole lives just to raise someone else's child. It was all for nothing. You can say you'll pay us back, but I'm sorry. I heard those same promises decades ago. You'll have to find another way. Kyle slumped to the floor like a puppet with its strings cut. Just then, his phone rang again. Hello, sir, this is Express Lending. A cheerful voice said, no collateral needed. Instant approval. His first instinct was to hang up, but on a strange impulse, he asked, what's your interest rate? Chapter 16. In a lavish mansion, Leo woke up in an absurdly large four-poster bed. Beside him, Catherine Pierce was sound asleep. Leo felt disgusted with himself, but a part of him knew he should be grateful. He walked out to the gazebo, where he saw Master You and Evan sipping tea. Evan, how's the exhibition submission going? Leo asked. Evan smiled. Patience. It's a slow process. Master You, did the ladies appreciate Leo's painting? Master You chuckled smugly. When I'm involved, it's a sure thing. I told them the painting is full of spiritual energy, aligned with the cosmic flow. Hang it in your home. and it's better than any expensive face cream. Now, they're all asking who owns it. It's not enough, Evan said. I'll contact a few more art critics. We need to fan the flames to get it to that $250,000 price point. Leo felt sick. Doesn't my painting have any value on its own? Of course it does, Evan said gently. Leo, I'm not going to play games with you. We're all in this together now. My mother genuinely likes you. She's thought about you all these years. But you know her. Business is business. She's had plenty of men, but she has no intention of marrying any of them. Marriage would only dilute her wealth. The man before you is basically a tool she used to pry open the wallets of wealthy heiresses and socialites. But you're different. She has feelings for you. And besides your feelings, she admires your talent. And of course, she wants to use it. It all clicked into place. Catherine was still the same Catherine. Her face wasn't the only thing that hadn't changed. Sensing the tension, Master Yu tried to smooth things over. Evan, we all understand. No need to spell it out. Ms. Pierce is a brilliant woman. We just have to be honest with her. Not like that Julian Croft, saying one thing to her face and doing another behind her back. That's just. He trailed off, silenced by a fierce glare from Evan. Leo noted the exchange. Julian Croft? The name sounded familiar. Mandy was losing her mind. She called the number over and over, but it was disconnected. She contacted Julian's company, only to find out he'd been fired months ago. She checked her bank account. The money had been withdrawn the same day she had dedicated herself to art. She couldn't go to the police. The money was dirty to begin with. Her head felt like it was splitting open. Her phone wouldn't stop ringing. She knew who it was. Stop calling me. Kyle, I know. Can you please stop calling? I'm trying to figure something out. The stock tanked. What do you want me to do? You want me to die? She shrieked into the phone. Kyle's voice was a desperate plea. The loan sharks are hounding me. If I don't pay them back the $105,000 this month, it becomes $120,000 next month. They said they'd kill my family and come to the hospital. What am I going to do? I'll be ruined. Mandy screamed and threw her phone against the wall. She started smashing things around her apartment. That was only one problem. There was something else, something that was pushing her to the absolute brink. What are you doing? Get out. I'm calling the cops. Brenda shrieked, clawing at the tattooed men who had forced their way into her home. Robert frantically tried to hold her back. The leader of the group plopped down on the sofa and motioned for one of his guys to hand Brenda her phone. Go ahead. Call them. They won't be arresting me. Brenda froze. Just then, two of the men dragged in a large canvas bag. They untied it, revealing a disheveled head of hair. Brenda's heart sank. She recognized him. Mom, Kyle whimpered, his face swollen like a pig's. I took out a high-interest loan for $100,000. I can't pay it back. You're all I have left. Robert suddenly gasped for air. Brenda screamed, fumbling for his nitroglycerin pills and forcing them into his mouth. After a few frantic moments, his breathing eased. What did I do to deserve this? Brenda collapsed onto the floor, sobbing. Cut the crap, old lady, the leader sneered. 10 days. Get the money, or he loses a finger. One finger for every day you're late. Robert waved a weak hand. Just go. You'll have your money in 10 days. Realization dawned on Brenda's face. She jumped up. Robert, what are you doing? This house is all we have. No, I won't do it. Robert shook his head, his voice choked with tears. We owe him. We always owed him. It's time to pay it back. Brenda let out a primal wail. She lunged at Kyle, beating him with her fists while the loan sharks howled with laughter. Just then, one of the goons came out of the bathroom, zipping up his pants with a cigarette dangling from his lips. Boss, you think this dump is worth $100,000? The toilet's clogged. Smells like a sewer. For some reason, Brenda's mind flashed back to that afternoon, to Leo on his knees, plunging that same toilet. A deep sigh escaped her lips, and she fainted. Jessica struggled to open her front door. Standing there were Robert and Brenda, surrounded by luggage, wearing sycophantic smiles. Jessie, Brenda chirped, you're about to pop, and you never told us you were pregnant. That good-for-nothing Leo just ran off. Your father and I decided to come and take care of you. Jessica's eyes held a mixture of contempt and pity. Kyle didn't come with you? Oh, Kyle, he's busy, Brenda said, pushing her way inside. At that very moment, Kyle's hands were wrapped around Mandy's neck. It's all your fault, he hissed. You ruined my life. Neither of us is getting out of here alive. Mandy's face was turning purple. True fear gripped her. She knew he wasn't just threatening her. He was going to kill her. There was only one thing left to say. Kyle heard a gurgling sound from her throat. He leaned in closer. It sounded like two words, the baby. He released her, stumbling backward. No, impossible. We were always careful. Tears streamed down Mandy's face. I took a test, Kyle. I'm pregnant. I know you'll never forgive me. I was going to go to the clinic today to take care of it. I didn't know you were coming. A strange, strangled sound escaped Kyle's lips, halfway between a laugh and a sob. Chapter 20. Leo took Master Yu out for drinks, asking him about the more mystical aspects of his craft. After a few whiskeys, the old man was happy to have an audience. Is any of it real? Leo asked. And what's real? Master Yu slurred. It's real if you believe it. Look at Ms. Pierce. She doesn't believe a word of it, and she's rolling in money. Then you have that Julian Croft. Believes everything. And look at him. Cursed with bad luck. Oh, what does Julian believe? Master Yu cackled. It's a funny story. He was one of Ms. Pierce's boy toys, but she's past the age of wanting kids. He used to come drink with me, telling me he wanted an heir. He has this old flame he's still in touch with, but she's married. So get this, he wants to take his, and her, and mix them together and put them in someone else's belly to have their baby. Can you believe it? The miracles of modern science, right? Fascinating, Leo said. Did he find someone to carry the baby? How would I know? Master, you said, then leaned in conspiratorially. But someone did. Don't tell anyone I told you this. Little Evan. He gave me a name. Told me to tell Julian that this woman had the perfect cosmic alignment to be the mother for his child. Who? Some woman named Jess something. Jessica Miller? Master, you suddenly sobered up. How did you know? Leo just nodded at him and walked away, his face a blank slate. How many birds had they killed with that one stone? He had to admit, it was a brilliant move. So, why did his heart ache? Chapter 21. Kyle raised his glass, his face flushed. Mom, Dad, sis, this is Mandy, and I have some great news. Mandy's pregnant. Brenda burst into tears of joy. They were all living in Jessica's apartment now. Brenda had already explained to Mandy that Kyle was Jessica's long-lost brother. Jessica, with her usual cool demeanor, had shown no reaction. Tonight, Kyle had brought Mandy over for a formal family dinner. Brenda and Robert were overjoyed. The storm had passed. I've made a lot of mistakes, Kyle said, his eyes wet. For now on, I'm going to work hard, take care of you both, be good to Mandy, and look after my sister. Brenda and Robert wiped their eyes. Mandy kept her head down. Congratulations, Kyle, Jessica said with a small smile. But as your big sister, there's something I feel I should mention. Anything, sis, Kyle beamed. Mandy's head snapped up, her eyes locking on Jessica. It's a bit of a cliché, Jessica said, her smile widening. But are you sure the baby is yours? Kyle's world went silent. He slowly turned his head to stare at Mandy. Mandy's mind raced. She had a suspicion, but it wasn't clear yet. She threw her hands up in a gesture of surrender. I don't know how you found out, but fine. There's no point in hiding it. Kyle, you're right. The baby isn't yours. Let's be honest, you never loved me, did you? A doctor and an artist, set up on a blind date. A year of dating, then marriage and kids. It sounds perfect, but do you even know me? I never really knew you either. And even though he was a liar and a cheat, and I want to skin him alive, those few weeks with him were happier than my entire year with you. I was even thinking of keeping his baby. It's pathetic, I know, but it was the closest thing I've ever had to love. A low, animalistic growl rumbled in Kyle's throat. He stumbled toward the kitchen. I'll kill you. I'll kill you both. Jessica grabbed a wine bottle from the table. Pregnant belly and all, she moved with surprising speed, getting behind Kyle and smashing the bottle over the back of his head. He crumpled to the floor, blood pooling on the tiles. Jessica turned to the stunned room, her voice cold. There, all debts are paid. And for the record, every single one of you had this coming. Chapter 22. Jessica sat on a park bench, gently rocking a stroller. The baby inside was fast asleep. Leo sat down next to her and took a debit card from his pocket. The pin is your birthday, he said. Pay off the rest of the mortgage. It must be hard, raising a child on your own. Jessica took the card and slipped it into her bag. Leo gave a bitter smile. Don't I even get a thank you? I never did anything to wrong you, she said coolly. Why should I thank you? Leo looked at her, then at the baby. He hesitated. When I was a kid, My grandma told me that people in our family have different earlobes. They curl outward like a little spoon to catch happiness. I guess she was wrong. Jessica didn't respond, just hummed a soft lullaby to the baby. Leo followed her gaze. The baby had her eyes, and then he saw it. The baby's tiny earlobes. They curled outward. He stood up abruptly, then fell to his knees before the stroller. He buried his face in the baby's soft, blanket-wrapped feet and began to sob. When Kyle was fired from the hospital, the list of infractions included not only forging cancer diagnoses, but also faking IVF records and a DNA test. When Julian had asked Jessica to be a surrogate, one of the conditions was that she would raise the child for him. He and his lover were in no position to be parents. Jessica never went through with the IVF. The baby was Leo's, and Leo had finally stood up to Catherine. If she tried to control him again, he would burn everything to the ground. Catherine had just smiled. The hype for his art was already built. It was a shame they couldn't be partners, but she still wanted to be his agent. The pay was excellent, and ironically, the go-between she hired to manage the sales was Julian Croft. Chapter 23, it's mine, isn't it? Julian said, blocking Mandy's path on the sidewalk. She was visibly pregnant now. Mandy glared at him, her teeth clenched. He shrugged. You're beautiful when you're angry, like a spring lamb. He then explained everything. Before you try to kill me, there are two things I need to tell you, he said seriously. First, when I said your art was full of life, I was lying. To my professional eye, it's a piece of crap. Genuinely. Mandy started rummaging in her purse for something sharp. Wait, there's a second thing, he said, his voice turning sincere. When I told you that you reminded me of my first love, that was true. Have a baby. I was willing to pay $250,000 for Jessica to have my child. If you have my child, I'll work for you for the rest of my life. Oh, and by the way, I got my old job back, this time as a senior partner. Catherine thought I was sleeping with her rival's wife, but all I ever wanted was a child. It was that simple. She always overthinks things. And now that I'm back in the business, I can promote your work. Even if you give me a piece of crap, I can market it as a gold-plated piece of crap. Mandy sighed. The baby wasn't at fault. He deserved to have a father. Chapter 24. In his in-laws' old house, Leo was on his hands and knees, wearing rubber gloves, working on a clogged toilet. Finally, with a gurgling whoosh, it cleared. Long fingers are good for more than just painting, he thought. Leo, Kyle said, standing in the doorway with a vacant look in his eyes. Have you seen my son? He was just kicking his ball here. Brenda rushed over and put an arm around him. Honey, that's your nephew. I made you that warm milk with an egg you like. Go on, drink it before it gets cold. She turned to Leo with a tired smile. Leo, you go wash up. I made a bowl for you, too. Drink it while it's hot. Leo nodded. He walked to the window and looked out. He saw his son, whom he named Leo Jr., but everyone called Skip, wobbling as he kicked a soccer ball. Jessica was watching over him carefully. A strange sense of peace settled over him. A phrase came to mind, a perfect fit for the moment. A beautiful time, a beautiful scene, and the beautiful sound of Jessica's name.